What if the people who truly understand money don't go quiet because they gave up? What if they go quiet because they finally discovered something about the financial system that changes everything? Think about it. Have you recently stopped watching financial videos as often as you used to? Have you lost interest in discussing investments with friends? Have you felt a strange disconnection from the financial conversations happening around you, even though you used to care deeply about them? If that sounds familiar, this video explains what happened to you. There are 5 phases in this process, and stay until the end, because phase 5 explains why the richest person you know is probably the one who never talks about money. In the last video on this channel, I showed you an uncomfortable fact. 201 scientific studies on financial education were analyzed together, and the conclusion was devastating. Knowledge explains almost nothing about what people actually do with money. Knowing does not change doing. That video was the diagnosis. This video is about the people who understood that diagnosis. The ones who stopped watching, the ones who stopped talking, the ones who quietly disappeared from every financial conversation they used to be part of. To everyone else, it looks like they lost interest. The truth is the exact opposite. The first phase begins the moment your brain starts seeing what it cannot unsee. Call it financial pattern recognition. Daniel Kahneman, the psychologist who won the Nobel Prize in economics, spent decades documenting something simple that changes everything. Once you learn to spot a mental trap, you cannot stop seeing it. The knowledge is irreversible. There is no going back to the version of you that did not notice. And for someone who has studied financial psychology, this creates a problem nobody warns you about. You start seeing financial manipulation everywhere. The friend who buys a new car every 3 years is not making a transportation decision. He is on a treadmill. He buys, he feels the thrill fades in a few weeks, and he needs to buy again to feel it one more time. The new car excitement dies before the third payment. You see it. He doesn't. The colleague who talks about crypto like it's a religion is not analyzing an investment. She only accepts information that confirms a decision she already made emotionally. Every article that agrees with her is proof. Every article that disagrees is written by someone who doesn't get it. You see it. She doesn't. The ad that shows the monthly payment in giant letters and hides the total price in tiny print is not informing you. It is running a documented psychological trick, the same one I showed you in previous videos. Your brain judges the small number and ignores the big one. You see it. The person next to you doesn't. And once these patterns become visible, every conversation about money transforms. A discussion about real estate becomes a live demonstration of anchoring, where the first price mentioned controls everyone's opinion of what is expensive and what is cheap. A recommendation from a financial influencer becomes a transparent mix of survivorship bias and affiliate commissions. Then you face a choice nobody talks about. Keep participating in these conversations and feel the constant tension of seeing what others cannot see. Or step back, go quiet. Let the conversations continue without you. Most people choose quiet, not because they think they are better than everyone else, but because the gap between what you see and what you can say, without sounding annoying, paranoid, or condescending, becomes too wide to cross. Quick question before we move on. If you have ever bitten your tongue in one of those conversations, type phase 1 in the comments right now. I read every single one, and I want to know how many of you are already here. The second phase explains why the quiet deepens. Call it financial noise exhaustion. Look at the environment we live in. In a recent survey of nearly 3,000 adults in the United States, about 40% of Generation Z said they learn about money primarily through social media. 2/3 of them feel financially behind their peers. Almost 70% say money is a major source of emotional stress. Now put those numbers together. An entire generation anxious about money, learning about money from the exact place designed to keep them anxious about money. Because here's what that place looks like. Hundreds of thousands of finance videos uploaded every single month, each one giving advice, each one contradicting the last. Buy index funds. No, buy individual stocks. Time the market. No, never time the market. Real estate is the best investment. No, real estate is a trap. Crypto is the future. No, crypto is a scam. The person who has studied financial psychology does not hear advice when they see this content. They hear noise because they have already seen the data. The 201 studies I mentioned found that even the effects that financial education does produce decay to almost nothing within 20 months. And the most brutal piece of data is this. The Spiva reports, which compare professional fund managers against the stock index, show that between 85 and 96% of professionals, people paid millions of dollars to make investment decisions, lose to a simple index fund over 10 to 20 years. Sit with that for a second. If the best paid professionals in the world cannot beat simple and education does not change behavior, then what exactly is all this content doing? Here is the answer the industry does not want you to reach. This content was not designed to change your behavior. It was designed to capture your attention. Every video, every article, every podcast episode is optimized for engagement, not for action. The algorithm rewards the video that makes you feel something, not the video that makes you do something. Fear performs. Urgency performs. A calm reminder to automate your deposit and go live your life does not perform. And every hour spent consuming financial content is an hour not spent on the one thing that actually builds wealth, depositing money and leaving it alone. The exhaustion this person feels is not weakness. It is pattern recognition applied to the content itself. The noise is not helping them. The noise is the product, and their attention is what pays for it. So they stop listening. Not because they stopped caring about money, but because they started caring about what they actually do with it. By the way, if you know someone drowning in this noise, jumping from video to video without ever investing a single dollar, send them this one. It might be the last finance video they ever need. The third phase is the one that changes every relationship. Call it financial shadow work. The psychologist Carl Jung had an idea that sounds abstract until you apply it to money. He said every person carries a shadow, the parts of themselves they refuse to look at. And until you make those parts conscious, they will run your life and you will call it fate. Applied to money, this idea is devastating because most financial decisions are not financial. Let me tell you about Rick. Everyone has a Rick at work. Rick has renovated his kitchen 3 times in 8 years. If you ask him, he says he is adding value to the house. But Rick is not improving his home. He is competing with his neighbors. The sociologist Thorstein Veblen gave this a name back in 1899. Conspicuous consumption. You don't buy for the utility, you buy to be seen buying. More than a century later, only the products have changed. The mechanism is identical, and it goes deeper. The economist James Dusenberry showed back in 1949 that people's spending is driven far more by what the people around them earn than by what they themselves earn. Which explains the friend who insists on splitting the bill evenly at the expensive restaurant she chose. She is not being generous. She is managing status anxiety. She is not spending her money. She is spending relative to the people she compares herself to. It explains the influencer posting screenshots of portfolio returns. He is not teaching. He is selling identity. The product is not the information. The product is the feeling of being the kind of person who makes those returns. The screenshot is the advertisement. The course is the revenue. And once you see the motivations behind the money, you cannot participate in these conversations the same way. This does not make you cynical. It makes you exhausted. Because you cannot tell Rick that the third kitchen is a response to the promotion he didn't get. You cannot tell your friend that her vacation is a reaction to someone's Instagram post. You cannot tell your uncle that his hatred of index funds is ego protection dressed up as analysis. You cannot say any of this without damaging the relationship. So you go quiet. Not because you judge them, but because the gap between what you see and what you can say has become unbridgeable. Here is one for the comments. Everyone has a Rick. Without naming names, what is the most common status purchase in your circle? cars, renovations, vacations, phones. Let me know below. I am genuinely curious whether it changes by country. The fourth phase is the one that looks like giving up, but is actually the opposite. Call it financial clarity. For the first time, without the constant noise of content, opinions, comparisons, and debates, the person hears their own financial thinking clearly. And they discover something that the entire content industry has been trying to hide. The strategy that builds wealth is embarrassingly simple. Spend less than you earn. Invest the difference automatically. Don't watch it. Wait. 4 sentences, 0 apps, 0 newsletters, 0 hours of research, 0 conversations required. Want proof? In 2008, Warren Buffett bet $1 million that a single index fund would beat 5 portfolios of hedge funds selected by professionals over 10 years. On the other side of that bet stood some of the most sophisticated financial minds in the world, managing billions of dollars using strategies that took decades to develop. The index fund won, and it wasn't close. Now do the math with me. $200 a month invested in an index fund at 7% a year for 30 years becomes roughly $243,000. And here is the part that matters. About 70% of that total does not come from your deposits. It comes from compound interest, not from picking stocks, not from timing anything, not from any strategy that requires expertise or attention. It comes from silence and consistency. The person who reaches this phase does not need another video, does not need another opinion, does not need a community, a mentor, a newsletter, or a podcast. They need a recurring transfer order and the discipline to never cancel it. In the last video, I called one of the 5 traps the sophistication contempt. The belief that the simple strategy is beneath someone who truly understands finance. The person in this phase has overcome that contempt. They have accepted that the strategy that works is the one that requires the least talking and the most waiting. And that acceptance produces a silence that everyone around them misreads. The 5th phase explains why this transformation is invisible to everyone. Call it the quiet accumulation. Financially intelligent people do not disappear overnight. They disappear one decision at a time. One day, they stop checking their portfolio daily. The economist Richard Thaler showed something counterintuitive here. Investors who look at their portfolio more often suffer more during the drops, and because they suffer more, they take less risk and earn less over time. The person who checks once a year sees growth. The person who checks every day sees chaos. Checking less is not laziness, it is strategy. Another day, they unsubscribe from the newsletters. Not because the information is bad, but because, for a long-term index investor, it is noise dressed up as signal. It creates the feeling of control over something that requires no control at all. Then they stop discussing investments at lunch. Because the conversation always follows the same script. Someone recommends something. Someone disagrees. Everyone shares opinions. Nobody changes anything. There is even data on this. One regulator found that only about 12% of people who intend to seek financial advice actually follow through. The conversation is theater, and the person who sees this stops attending the performance. Then they automate their contributions. The Save More Tomorrow program, designed by the same Richard Thaler, proved that automating savings dramatically increases how much people accumulate, precisely because it removes the monthly decision. Nobody has to be disciplined about a decision that no longer exists. The person who automates has not checked out. They have built a system that works without their attention. And then, one day, someone notices they are gone. Where did they go? Why did they stop talking about money? Did they give up? Did something go wrong? Nothing went wrong. Everything went right. They stopped consuming and started compounding. They stopped discussing and started depositing. They stopped performing sophistication and started practicing financial silence. And nobody noticed, because the most powerful financial strategy in existence produces no content, no screenshots, no hot takes, no debates, Just a balance that grows too slowly to be visible month to month and too powerfully to be denied decade to decade. 5 phases: financial pattern recognition, financial noise exhaustion, financial shadow work, financial clarity, the quiet accumulation. None of them require ignorance. All of them require the kind of understanding that makes noise unbearable and silence productive. Now, the most important question of this video: which phase are you in? Type the number in the comments. Seriously, just the number, 1 through 5. And a year from now, come back to that comment and see how far you've moved. I will pin the top answer. If you recognized yourself in at least 2 of these phases, you have already started going quiet. This video just gave names to what was already happening inside you. You did not need permission to disappear from the noise. But now you know the disappearance is not dysfunction. It is the signal. If you are still consuming, still comparing, still discussing, still preparing, then be honest with yourself. This video is just the latest addition to a library of content that has not changed a single number in your account. And here is the paradox of this channel. If it does its job well, you will watch fewer and fewer finance videos. So why subscribe? Because one channel that teaches you to need less instead of 50 channels that teach you to need more is noise reduction. Subscribe not to watch more, but to be notified only when something actually matters. The last video ended with a question: whether your next deposit would happen before or after your next video. The people who chose before are not watching this. They disappeared. And if someone in your life has recently gone quiet about money, stopped sharing opinions, stopped debating strategies, stopped consuming content, do not ask them what happened. They finally understood. And if this is the last finance video you watch before you go quiet yourself, then every video on this channel, every study cited, every mechanism named, all of it did exactly what it was supposed to do. Not to teach you more, to make you need less. If you landed here without seeing the diagnosis, the previous video, the one about the 201 studies, is on your screen right now. It is the first half of this story. Watch it before you disappear.